Imagine walking into a new job, nervous but hopeful, carrying all your dreams in your heart, only to be ambushed by laughter, humiliation, and cruelty. That was the reality for Ms. Elena Carter, the new English teacher at Riverside High. She stepped into her first class with trembling hands clutching her books. Within seconds, the whispers began, the mocking, the cruel games. They thought she was weak. They thought she'd break. But what they didn't know, this wasn't just any teacher. And in just 60 seconds, those same bullies would be begging for forgiveness. Elena Carter was only 24 when she got her first real teaching position at Riverside High, a school known more for its chaos than its achievements. She was young, soft-spoken, and still carried the scars of being bullied herself in high school. Teaching wasn't just a job for her. It was her way of giving back, of protecting students who might be suffering in silence like she once did. But her first day turned into something she could never forget. The bell rang, and Elena walked into her classroom, her smile bright but her hands shaking. She had spent the night before preparing lesson plans, rehearsing her introduction, and ironing her modest blouse so she would look professional. She wanted to be taken seriously. Instead, she was met with smirks. A boy in the back muttered, "She looks like a kid herself." Another girl whispered loudly, "Bet she quits by Friday." The class laughed. Elena forced a smile, set her books down, and began writing her name on the board. That's when it happened. One of the boys, Jason, a notorious troublemaker, launched a paper airplane straight at her back. The class roared with laughter. She ignored it, continuing to write. But then, another voice called out, "Hey, Miss Carter, are you even old enough to be a teacher?" The laughter grew louder. They smelled fear. Her chest tightened. Her hands shook. Memories of her own high school days flooded back. The names, the pranks, the feeling of being invisible and powerless. For a split second, Elena thought about walking out. She thought about quitting. But then she looked at one girl in the corner. A shy, quiet student with her head buried in her arms, flinching with every outburst. Elena recognized that look, the look of someone praying the bullies wouldn't turn on her next. That was the moment Elena knew she couldn't run. She had to stand her ground. The final straw came when Jason, trying to impress his friends, swaggered up to her desk, snatched her lesson papers, and ripped them in half right in front of her. The room erupted in cheers and laughter. Elena's heart sank. But something inside her clicked. Her breathing steadied. Her eyes hardened. And in the quietest, calmest voice she said, "Jason, sit down." The entire class froze. There was something in her tone they hadn't expected. Authority, control, strength. Jason smirked, thinking she was bluffing. But in less than a minute, everything would change. Jason sneered and tossed her shredded papers on the floor. "Or what?" he mocked. The class chuckled, waiting to see the teacher crumble. But Elena didn't flinch. She stepped out from behind her desk, her voice steady but commanding. "You have 60 seconds to sit down and apologize, or I make a call that changes your future in ways you don't want to imagine." Her calmness unsettled them. The room went silent. Jason laughed nervously. "Yeah, right." But then Elena began counting down, her eyes locked on him, her voice unwavering. 60, 59, 58. The students looked at each other confused. No teacher had ever done this. Jason's smirk faltered. 47, 46. The room grew tense. Even the class clown stopped grinning. Elena's voice was steady, echoing with quiet power. 30, 332. Jason shifted uncomfortably. "You can't do anything," he muttered. But Elena stepped closer, lowering her voice so only he could hear. "I know your record. One more strike, and you're out of this school. You think your friends will laugh then? You think they'll be around when you're expelled, when your mother gets that call? Because I've already got the principal on speed dial." And Jason froze. The bravado drained from his face. T2120. He swallowed hard, then slowly backed toward his seat. The classroom watched in stunned silence. Finally, Jason dropped into his chair and muttered, "Sorry, Miss Carter." Elena stopped counting. She smiled faintly, then looked at the rest of the class. "No, who else needs me to count?" Nobody spoke, nobody moved. The entire classroom shifted from mocking to mesmerized. For the first time, they saw not a timid young teacher, but someone who couldn't be broken. And in that silence, something remarkable happened. The shy girl in the corner, her name was Lily, lifted her head for the first time, her eyes wide with awe. She wasn't just looking at a teacher anymore. She was looking at hope. From that day on, Ms. Elena Carter was no longer the teacher the students thought they could break. She became the teacher who transformed the classroom into a place of respect, growth, and courage. The bullies who once laughed at her learned quickly that true strength doesn't come from mocking others. It comes from standing firm, protecting the vulnerable, and choosing kindness over cruelty. And Lily, the shy girl in the corner, she found her own voice because of that day. Years later, she would tell her classmates at graduation, "I believed in myself, because one teacher showed me that strength doesn't have to shout. Sometimes, strength just counts down from 60. Sometimes the world will test you. People may try to break you, laugh at you, or make you feel small. But remember this, strength isn't about fighting back with anger. True strength is calm, steady, and unshakable. And when you refuse to break, even the bullies will beg for forgiveness."